The lecture hall was vast, cavernous, and quiet, eerily quiet. Not because there were no attendees but because every single one of them was human, and the being standing at the front of the auditorium was not. Not remotely. Professor Rel of the SCI Genocultural Institute stepped up to the podium with an almost reverent calm. He was tall, at least by human standards, thin like coiled metal wrapped in translucent gray skin that shimmered under the hall's bioluminescent lights. No mouth. No obvious eyes. Just a face covered in fractal ridges and pulsating lines of blue. He tapped the floating control orb and a shimmering holo display bloomed behind him, an image of a human skeleton rotating slowly, pulsing with red highlights over vital points. "Welcome," he said in perfect Terran English, "to your first and final lecture in extermination theory, case study, Homo sapiens." No one spoke. Not yet. Some sat forward, narrowing their eyes. Some crossed their arms, jaws tightening. Others simply waited, curious as if trying to determine whether this was a test or a threat. Rel continued, utterly unfazed. "You are here because you have survived what many in the galaxy consider statistically improbable. You are here because your species confounds, resists, and outlasts methods of annihilation that have destroyed civilizations far more advanced." He gestured. The holoscreen shifted to a time-lapse of extinct species. Dozens, then hundreds, vanishing in waves of flame, ice, bioplague, and entropy. Species who had better tools. More efficient biological redundancies. Broader psychic matrices. And yet, humans remain. The professor turned toward the audience. "So now we study you. With you." Finally, someone spoke. It was a young man in military fatigues near the front, short-cropped hair, sharp eyes, Earth insignia on his left breast. "Let me get this straight," he said. "You called us here to tell us how to kill ourselves?" A few murmurs followed. Rel tilted his head in what seemed like amusement. "No, Commander Adric. I am here to present a full academic breakdown of why you cannot be effectively exterminated, despite centuries of attempts, and what hypothetical vulnerabilities remain. The purpose is not to execute but to understand." He paused, letting that hang. "Besides," he added, "most of the races that once tried to kill you are now extinct." Another ripple of uneasy shifting through the rows of humans. There were about 60 of them in total, scientists, soldiers, diplomats, and one little girl. Aaron noticed her in the far right corner, maybe 10 years old, dark curls, leaning forward in fascination. Someone important, or perhaps a survivor of something no one else understood yet. Professor Rel gestured, and a second holo display activated, this time showing a layered model of a human brain. "Let us begin with the basics," he said. "Standard extermination protocols focus on two main vectors: destruction of physical integrity and disruption of societal cohesion. Yet both fail spectacularly against your species." He highlighted several areas in red. The prefrontal cortex, seat of reasoning and long-term planning. Unremarkable in scale. But when paired with your limbic systems, especially the amygdala, your species exhibits what I have coined selective irrational resilience. "Irrational?" someone muttered. Rel nodded. "Indeed. Humans will engage in behaviors that should, by every evolutionary metric, be counterproductive. Running toward threats. Refusing surrender. Sacrificing self for stranger." He paced slowly, hands clasped behind his back. "This is not mere bravado. It is the weaponization of emotion. No other species in our records uses grief as a motivator to this degree. No other species builds myths from defeat and returns stronger." He paused the projection. "I once observed a human soldier lose every member of his squad. 9 men. Executed before him. He survived by gnawing through his own restraints and detonating the ship's reactor core, with himself aboard. He did so not for strategy. Not for escape. But so that no one else would suffer what he did." Silence. Then quietly, a voice from the back row. "What's your point?" "My point," said Rel, "is that extermination relies on predictability. And humans are delightfully unpredictable." A new projection appeared, planetary atmospheric collapses. Terraforming gone wrong. Viral agents. Precision orbital strikes. All methods proven successful in the past against other species. "All of these were tested," Rel said. "All failed." He pointed to a frozen wasteland. "Frozen your cities? You huddle underground and adapt. A scorched ruin. Burned your crops? You eat fungi and algae and each other, if necessary. A toxic planet. Flooded your biosphere with nanotoxins? Your bodies mutated. Some died. The rest became immune, and weaponized the toxin. A new slide, a red zone marked Genzac genophage deployment, year 7421 GE. Ah yes, Rel said almost fondly. The genophage, a universal sterilization sequence designed by the Xeralti, perfectly executed on 12 species. The screen flicked to a shot of humans in radiation suits, assembling hydroponic farms. It simply didn't work on you. You reversed it in 17 months. And made it lethal to the Xeralti. A bitter chuckle moved through the audience. Then Adric spoke again. Why are you really doing this? Rel finally turned to face him directly. Because, Commander, I am the last of my species. The SCI attempted human eradication in the early cycles. We failed. He spread his long fingers, voice quiet. I do not want revenge. I want to know what we missed. I want to understand what you are. Erin Voss leaned forward now. She hadn't spoken yet. She wore civilian clothes, but her posture was unmistakably military. She had scars too, not just the kind you see, the kind you sense. Let me ask you something, she said. Rel nodded, inviting. If you could kill us even now, would you? The air tightened. The alien did not hesitate. No. Because I believe the galaxy would end with you. More silence. Then, every great empire burned out trying to destroy you. Every weapon you survived, you later improved. Even in loss, you thrive. Even when isolated, you adapt. You are not the apex predator. You are not invincible. But you are a species of response. You become what the moment requires. And nothing in recorded history survives that kind of flexibility for long, except you. He paused. Or the void. And now the room stirred again. Murmurs. Erin stood. So what's your theory then? How do you kill us? Rel sighed. Not by war. Not by plague. Not even by memory erasure. He raised a final image. A human child. Then the same child 20 years later, leading troops through fire. Then that same figure, older still, speaking before a unified planetary council. And finally, that person, alone, standing in front of a broken Earth with stars behind them. You do not die with bombs, he said softly. You die when you stop believing you matter. You die when you stop turning loss into purpose. The only way to kill you is to convince you that your story is over. And that, at last, drew the entire room silent. The little girl in the corner raised her hand. Rel blinked, literally his whole upper frame pulsing. Yes. She looked small but spoke clearly. What if we never stop believing? Rel tilted his head. Then you will never die. The girl's words still echoed. What if we never stop believing? And Rel's answer. Then you will never die. The silence that followed was not just reverent. It was watchful. As if the walls themselves had heard something they weren't meant to. Erin Voss narrowed her eyes. She had spent years reading atmospheres like this. Rooms turning, shadows shifting even if no one moved. She looked up toward the domed ceiling of the lecture hall and caught it. A flicker. Just for a moment. External movement. Her hand moved to the comm embedded in her collar. Storm Rider 1 to security net. Confirm outer perimeter integrity. We might have watchers. No response. Her eyes sharpened. Repeat. Storm Rider 1, any response? Still nothing. Adric caught it too. He was already rising from his seat, reaching under his coat. Erin stood fast, raising her voice. Everyone remain calm. Professor Rel, I need you to end the lecture and initiate your room seal protocol. Rel didn't move. His gaze had shifted, not in fear but recognition. They found us. Erin tensed. Who? The lights flickered. The hologram behind Rel snapped into static, then resolved into a single glyph. A jagged triangle over a pulsing red circle. Adric swore under his breath. Ka shadow. Erin grit her teeth. I thought they were wiped out on Silas Prime. They were, Adric said. But just like us, they don't stay dead. The Ka shadow weren't a government. Not a faction. Not even a rogue military. They were an idea, twisted, persistent. A belief system formed from the wreckage of a dozen extinct empires, all bent on one goal, preventing the rise of humanity by any means necessary. And if they traced Rel's lecture, that meant, seal the exits. Erin barked. Get the non-combatants to cover. Now. But it was already too late. The lecture hall's high walls began to ripple. Not with movement, but with dimensional bleed. Hexagonal fractures opened midair, like the skin of reality was cracking under stress. From each tear, cloaked figures stepped forward, tall, black-robed, faces obscured by breathing masks that hissed with every intake. Their weapons weren't firearms or plasma. They carried blade-like constructs woven from crystallized dark matter. Silent, efficient, deadly. The first of them raised his hand, and all the lights went dark. A second later, the shooting started. Erin dropped instantly, pulling a sidearm from her ankle rig and firing 2 precise rounds toward the lead attacker. One struck the mask. The figure dropped. No scream. Just silence. Adric was already sprinting toward the nearest access stair, shouting for the civilians to get down. 2 other humans, both in diplomatic uniforms, were trying to pull the little girl to safety. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stared at the attackers like she was cataloging them. The professor did not move. He stood at the center of the chaos, the storm of violence swirling around him, and whispered something in Sthkan. It rippled. Not sound. Not vibration. Thought. Erin felt it hit her chest like a physical shove. And then, one of the Tka soldiers stopped mid-strike, blade raised, body shuddering. Then collapsed. The others hesitated. Professor, whatever that was, do it again, she shouted. I cannot, Rel said. Not unless they listen. The Tka do not listen. They only obey their erasure instinct. Another ripple of enemy movement, this time toward the archive core. A secure vault just behind the lectern housing not just Rel's data but the full recording of the lecture, what he had shared and perhaps more. Erin turned and sprinted. She skidded to a halt just as one of the Tka reached the core interface and plunged a weapon into its lockpad. Too late. The vault exploded in a storm of blue flame, implosive self-cleanse protocol. They hadn't come to steal the knowledge. They'd come to erase it. And Rel knew it. They don't fear you learning how to be killed, he said aloud as Adric threw a stun grenade across the room. They fear you learning that you cannot be killed the same way as anything else. The surviving humans were pulling back now, huddled behind the reinforced lower tier. Erin fired again, ducking a thrown shard blade that embedded into the floor near her ear. Professor, this place is compromised. We need a secondary extraction route. There isn't one. Then make one. Rel hesitated. Do you trust me? He asked. I just watched you shut down a man's brain from 30 feet without touching him. That buys you 5 seconds. He raised both hands. And the air bent. It didn't break. Didn't burn. It twisted. A circle of nothingness opened in the far end of the room, filled with silver light and whirling static. A fold gate, Rel said. I can hold it for 40 seconds. Where does it go? He looked at her. Where you need to be. Not what she wanted to hear, but it would have to do. Get everyone through, she ordered. Now. Adric and the remaining humans scrambled toward the gate. The little girl hesitated. She turned and looked at Rel. You're not coming? He didn't answer. He just watched her go. The last of the Tka fell to Adric's boot knife. Erin and Rel were the only ones left in the lecture hall. The professor staggered now, his skin dimming. His fractal lines losing color. You can't hold it, Erin said. No, he agreed. But I had to finish the lesson. You'll die. I already did, he whispered. When I failed to understand your kind. This is the last act of a dying student, Captain Voss. She stared at him. You said they came to erase the knowledge, she said. But they didn't? Not really. He smiled, barely. No. Because you heard it. That's all that matters. The words were spoken. The truth is out. And they cannot kill an echo. Erin turned. The fold gate was closing. She dove through. And the gate snapped shut behind her. Rel stood alone in the silent hall, surrounded by the remnants of war, the scent of ozone, and the memory of a child's question. What if we never stop believing? Elsewhere. The survivors emerged into a long-forgotten relay hub near the Martian expanse. Hidden. Cold. Safe for now. Erin rose slowly. Adric was already checking head counts. We lost 6, he said quietly. But most made it. Erin exhaled. She reached up to her comm implant. Begin voice recording. New file. This is Captain Erin Voss. Timestamp 0487GN. Subject, the Rel lecture event. The enemy has returned, but not with ships. With silence. They want to erase not just us but the reason we keep standing up. She glanced around at the exhausted survivors. At the girl sitting against the wall, eyes still wide. At the scientist shaking quietly, holding a fragment of the lecture drive that survived. They failed. And now it's our turn to speak. The room was a gutted relay hub hidden in Martian orbit. One of Earth's classified fallback bunkers, meant for recon teams or emergency evac. Now it was housing something far more important. A story that survived attempted erasure. Captain Aaron Voss stood over the flickering drive fragment, one of only 3 physical remnants of the lecture hall's archive. It was the size of a coin, but it hummed with potential. "Play it again," she ordered. Lieutenant Adric sighed. "That'll be the 9th time." "10's a good number," she shot back. The projection reignited. Blue light flared, warped, and stabilized. A blurred image formed, Professor Rella's silhouette mid-sentence. "The error in all previous extermination models is assuming linear decay. Humanity doesn't rot. It splinters. Like fire under pressure, it explodes outward." The image flickered. "There is one method left. One pathway your ancestors knew but never dared to document fully. Because it didn't erase humans, it changed them." The recording cracked and degraded into static. And there it was again. That line. It didn't erase humans, it changed them. Adric leaned against a support pillar, arms crossed. "If we assume Rella's species actually discovered that pathway, whatever it is, then the DCA didn't just want to destroy the lecture. They wanted to keep us from finding that method." Aaron nodded. "Which means they think we're close." Across the room the young girl, Kaya, still silent since the escape, lifted her head. "What if they're not protecting a weakness?" she asked. Everyone turned. "What if they're protecting our evolution?" The room fell silent. Dr. Celine Aurora, the senior cognitive specialist among the survivors, blinked. "Elaborate." Kaya stood up. Her voice was soft, but her words cut through the air like razors. "What if the thing that DCA are so afraid of isn't that we'll figure out how to avoid being killed? What if it's that we'll learn how to become something else entirely, something they can't calculate?" Adric stared at her. "You're 10. Kaya stared back. "I'm 10 and I watched a DCA soldier shatter in front of me because he heard something his mind couldn't hold. So don't treat me like I don't know what I'm saying." Celine leaned toward her, careful. "What did he hear?" Kaya pointed at the drive. "That. But not the words. The tone." Aaron narrowed her eyes. "The resonance." "Exactly," Kaya said. "That's why the DCA didn't destroy Rel himself right away. They wanted to make sure the sound didn't get out. But I heard it. You all felt it." Aaron suddenly remembered the moment in the hall, when Rel had spoken in Stkhan and the air twisted. It wasn't a weapon. It was a key. "What if the archive wasn't about how to kill us," she said slowly, "but how to unlock us?" Adric's eyes widened. "Are you saying he wasn't teaching a warning? He was handing off the next phase of our species?" Celine looked almost dizzy. "No wonder the council locked him out of broadcast networks. This isn't just cultural preservation. This is biological provocation." They turned to the drive again. Dr. Aurora reached into her medkit and pulled out a neuroaudio filter, normally used to calm soldiers suffering PTSD via resonant pulses. She tweaked the frequency to match the distortion at the edge of Rella's voice in the recording. The drive lit up. A hidden layer activated. Not visuals this time, but geometry. Rotating shapes layered over one another, forming a 3-dimensional lattice that pulsed with slow, rhythmic intervals. Adric frowned. "That's not a diagram." "No," Celine whispered. "It's a neural map." Aaron stepped forward. "Whose brain?" Kaya answered without hesitation. "Mine." Everyone froze. She walked forward, slowly, calmly. "It's been playing in my head since the lecture. I couldn't hear it at first. But it's there. I think he gave me something." The shapes spun faster. And then they stopped, locked in a final position and formed a star map. But not one from current galactic charts. Aaron blinked. "Where the hell is this?" Kaya pointed at the core system in the projection. "That's not a planet. That's a graveyard. A sentient graveyard." Adric's voice was low. "Hey, what?" Rel called it Mornsite Sigma. A memory vault built from the minds of his people as they died. They encoded everything into it. He said only someone who understands grief and keeps moving anyway can survive the path there. Celine's voice cracked. "That's humanity's specialty." Aaron clenched her fists. "Then that's our next move." Adric stepped forward. "Captain, with respect, you're planning to lead us into a dead zone with a child who's hearing songs from a genocide alien memory vault?" "Yes," Aaron said flatly. "Because the ones trying to stop us? They fear what we'll become when we finish the journey." Kaya looked up at her. "He said the path would be full of shadows. Ones that remember what humans almost became." "Almost?" Adric said. "What's worse than us at war?" Kaya's voice was quiet. "Us unchained. Elsewhere in the void. A DK operative kneeled before a pulsing red monolith deep in the black section of an extinct Dyson shell. The survivors have decrypted the seed, the operative whispered. 1,000 flickering consciousnesses stirred behind the monolith's surface. Then it has begun, a voice echoed. The voice has found a carrier. The DK bowed deeper. What is your will? Let them follow the map, the voice said. Let them walk willingly into the place that holds what they fear most. Their own next step. 8 days later, edge of the Mornsite Sigma dead zone. The ship named Red Memory coasted just outside sensor range of the anomaly, an expanse of space that shouldn't exist. No light. No echo. No stars behind it. Just absence. A perfect spherical region where energy vanished, time twisted, and machines lied. Approaching event horizon, Lieutenant Adric said from the helm, his jaw set. Last chance to turn around and say we all imagine that lecture. Captain Aaron Voss stood behind him, arms folded. If we turn now, it means they won. No shame in surviving. Aaron looked out the viewport. That's not what Rel was trying to show us. In the center of the bridge, Kaya sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by holograms projected from the drive's geometric map. She wasn't guiding the ship with controls. She was singing, softly under her breath. No language. No words. Just melody. The ship responded. Dr. Celine Aurora watched the readings, hand trembling. The symbiotic core is responding to her neural field. I've never seen this level of alignment in any Terran child. It's like the ship recognizes her as authority. Aaron nodded slowly. She's the key. No, Kaya said softly, eyes still closed. I'm the question. And with that, the red memory crossed the threshold into Mornsite Sigma. There was no pain. No flash. Just reversal. One moment, the stars blinked behind them. The next, they were inside something that wasn't space, wasn't anywhere in the conventional sense. A corridor of memory stretched in all directions, miles-wide chains of fractured structures suspended in unlight. Entire cities rotated inside loops of gravity where none should exist. Monoliths whispered in voices that came from below thinking. Adric swore under his breath. This is like being inside someone else's death. Kaya opened her eyes. It is. They disembarked onto a floating platform, surrounded by statues of species long dead. Each one held something, a shard, a script, a memory drive. But all of them had one thing in common. Their heads were bowed, as if in mourning, or surrender. Except one. At the very center of the array stood a human figure, roughly sculpted, face half-formed. A statue of a being that hadn't happened yet. Celine gasped. That's us? No, Aaron said slowly. That's what comes after. Kaya stepped forward and placed her palm against the statue's chest. The entire structure shuddered. From the base of the platform, lines of code unfurled into the void, reaching outward in a fractal pattern. They formed a symbol. A mirror. What are we seeing? Adric asked, weapon drawn instinctively. The Mornsite is reflecting what humanity could become, Celine whispered. All possible paths. It's an archive of unrealized evolution. Kaya looked back at them. Her eyes shimmered faintly now. Rel didn't want to teach you how to kill humans, she said. He wanted to warn you what happens when you don't listen to what humanity might become. Aaron narrowed her eyes. What happens? Kaya turned toward the void. And something stepped forward. It had no name. Not a face. But it wore human shape as if trying it on. It radiated no threat, no intent. It simply was. The culmination of grief, memory, and choice. It was the answer to the question. What if humans stopped dying before they finished becoming? Adric raised his weapon. This thing friendly? No, Aaron said softly. It's not unfriendly either. It's just witnessing. The being stepped past them to the statue. It placed its hand on Kaya's. And she began to speak, not in her voice, not entirely. You are not the end of a line. You are the fork in the path. You will not be remembered by what you built or what you broke, but by what you chose not to become, when it was so easy to give in. The others tried to kill you. They failed. The Ka tried to erase you. They failed. Now comes the final test. Aaron stepped forward. What is it? Can you survive your own potential? The being faded. The statue split open, and inside, a crystal humming with resonance, lifted into the air. Kaya held it in both hands. The final lecture, she whispered. The one he hid even from himself. Back on the red memory, the crew gathered in silence. The crystal was projected in the ship's core. It contained more than data. It contained echoes of every failure, every extinction, every regret the galaxy had tried to bury. And among them, humanity's thread, weaving between them like a scar that refused to fade. Celine wept silently. Edric said nothing at all. Erin Voss leaned forward. "What happens if we play it?" she asked. Kaya smiled. "Then everyone hears the story. Somewhere deep in the dark, 1,000 Ka ships stirred. Their minds bent, twisted with old logic and fear. And in their hearts they all heard it. A voice. Human. Clear. Confident. Unbroken. You wanted to know how to kill us. You failed. Now you'll learn what happens when we decide not to die at all. Cyclone transmission ends. Cyclone. But your evolution is just beginning. In a galaxy where knowledge is outlawed and memory is the enemy, stories are our final weapons. Studio Microphones subscribe to the Void Narratives, where every voice you hear might be your last, or your awakening. Because what you think is fiction might just be history waiting to repeat. In a black speech bubble, stay sharp. Stay human. Stay loud. Satellite antenna news signals drop weekly. And trust us, the next echo might just be calling your name. Play button, subscribe now, before someone tries to silence the signal too.